Deep in the heart of the rugged Zagros Mountains of Iraqi Kurdistan lies a cave that holds one of the oldest unsolved mysteries in human history. Hidden high on Bradost Mountain, overlooking the flowing waters of the greater Zab River, sits Shanidar Cave. From the outside, it's just a dark opening in the rock. But what was discovered inside may rewrite everything we thought we knew about the earliest days of human interaction and conflict. In the 1950s, archaeologist Ralph Seletsky led a team into Shanidar Cave. At the time, he couldn't have known he was about to stumble upon a discovery that would spark debate for decades. Backed by the Smithsonian Institution, Seletsky began digging into the cave's layers, going 14 meters deep, all the way to the bedrock. What he found weren't just artifacts, he found bones, ancient ones. Skeletons buried deep in the oldest layers, some of them 50,000 years old. On April 16, 1957, a Kurdish worker spotted something strange sticking out of a trench wall. It was a partial skeleton. This Neanderthal male would later be called Shanidar III. Unlike other remains, which were sent to the Baghdad Museum, these bones were shipped to the Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. That decision would prove critical. At the Smithsonian, physical anthropologist T. Dale Stewart examined Shanidar III, and he noticed something shocking: a wound, a clean, sharp cut on the left ninth rib. It had started to heal, but hadn't finished before the man died. That meant he survived the injury for several weeks, but the wound likely led to his death. Suddenly, a 50,000-year-old mystery was born. What caused this injury? Was it an accident, a fight, or something more sinister, and perhaps more chilling? Who was responsible? To answer that, scientists needed to understand who Shanidar III really was. Through his remains, they reconstructed the story of a real person who once walked the earth. Shanidar III was a mature adult male, likely between 40 and 50 years old, elderly by Neanderthal standards. He stood about 5'6" tall, with a strong and muscular frame. His thick bones showed signs of hard labor and survival in a tough environment. His arms and shoulders were especially robust, revealing the strength he carried in life. But his skeleton also told a story of pain. His right ankle had suffered a serious injury that had healed, but left him with a limp and limited mobility. This injury may have made him more vulnerable, especially during hunting or conflict. It may even have played a role in his eventual death. But even with this weakness, Shanidar III was part of a capable group. Neanderthals at Shanidar were skilled toolmakers. They crafted mousering tools, sharp stone weapons, and tools used for hunting and preparing animals. Bones found at the site show cut marks consistent with skinning and tendon removal. These weren't mindless brutes. They were intelligent, organized, and adapted to survive. But one thing separated Shanidar III from others: his death. That mysterious wound, cut on his rib that seemed almost surgical in its precision. Not wide, not crushing, just a single, deadly strike. Years later, scientists decided to take a new approach to solving the mystery. In 2009, Dr. Stephen Churchill and a team at Duke University launched an experimental investigation. They created replica stone weapons from the Paleolithic era and tested them on pig carcasses, which have rib cages similar to humans. Their goal? To find out what kind of weapon could have caused the wounds seen on Shanidar III. They tested two kinds of force. First, high-energy close-range attacks, like a Neanderthal thrusting a spear into prey. These left massive damage, shattered ribs, splinters, and crushed bone. The second test used low-energy projectile weapons, like light spears thrown from a distance, often associated with early modern humans. These caused smaller, cleaner punctures. When compared to Shanidar III's rib wound, the results were clear. His injury looked nothing like the damage from a close-range spear. Instead, it matched the kind of wound caused by a lightweight projectile, like the ones used by early Homo sapiens. This changed everything. Neanderthals typically fought up close. Their weapons were built for stabbing, not throwing. Homo sapiens, however, had developed more advanced tools. They used spears that could be thrown, and even devices like atlatls to increase their range and force. These innovations gave them a distinct advantage in hunting, and possibly in conflict. So, the question changed from how Shanidar III was wounded to who did it and why. There are three possible theories. First, it could have been an accident. Maybe Shanidar 3 fell onto something sharp or got injured during a hunt. But the wound is too precise. It's clean and targeted, unlikely to be from a fall. The second theory is that another Neanderthal attacked him. Disputes over food, mates, or territory could have turned violent. Neanderthals were human after all, and humans fight. But the third theory is the most provocative, that Shanidar 3 was attacked, maybe even killed, by a member of our own species. Around the time Shanidar 3 died, Homo sapiens were migrating into Western Asia. They were entering lands long occupied by Neanderthals for hundreds of thousands of years. Neanderthals had dominated Europe and parts of the Middle East, but now modern humans were arriving, bringing new tools, new strategies, and possibly a new threat. Could this be the first murder between species? It's possible. If true, it may represent the earliest forensic evidence of interspecies violence. Conflict not just between individuals, but between two different types of humans, one of which would eventually go extinct. As Homo sapiens expanded, Neanderthal populations shrank. By 40,000 years ago, Neanderthals had vanished from most of their former range. But before they disappeared, they interacted with modern humans. We know this because most people of Eurasian descent today carry about 1 to 2% Neanderthal DNA. There was interbreeding. They lived near each other, sometimes together. But peaceful coexistence doesn't mean there wasn't competition. Modern humans had advantages. Their tools were more efficient. Their hunting strategies more diverse. They built larger social networks and possibly had more advanced symbolic thinking. These factors may have helped them outcompete Neanderthals, especially during harsh climate changes. Anthropologist Pat Shipman describes it as the invader's advantage. Homo sapiens may have moved in, outcompeted Neanderthals for food and shelter, and in some cases killed them when they posed a threat. Shanidar 3 could be one such case. There are other hints of prehistoric violence. A Neanderthal in France showed signs of a skull fracture that may have come from a weapon. But Shanidar 3's case is different. It's better preserved, more detailed, and more scientifically tested. It's not just a theory. It's a real, physical wound with a story. But here's the truth. This wasn't just about weapons and bones. It was about people. Shanidar 3 was a living, breathing person. He felt pain. He had relationships. He hunted, struggled, aged, and eventually died. His attacker, whoever they were, was also a person. Someone using their knowledge and tools to survive in a dangerous world. That's what makes this story so powerful. It humanizes both the victim and the possible assailant. It reminds us that ancient history isn't just about fossils and artifacts. It's about real lives, real choices, real consequences. And the mystery isn't over. In recent years, archaeologists have returned to Shanidar Cave using advanced tools and modern techniques. In 2018, they discovered another skeleton dubbed Shanidar Z near the famous flower burial site. These new discoveries continue to add depth to our understanding of Neanderthal life and death. Shanidar 3 may never speak, but his bones speak for him. They tell a story of innovation, conflict, survival, and change. His wound links us to the moment when two intelligent human species shared the earth. One survived, one did not. Why? The answer is likely a mix of factors. Climate change, competition for resources, disease, and yes, maybe even violence. Shanidar 3 is a symbol of that complex past. More than 50,000 years after his death, he remains at the center of one of humanity's oldest cold cases. Was he murdered? Was he the victim of our species' rise? Or was he simply caught in the storm of evolution? Whatever the truth, his story lives on. Not just in bones and tools, but in the questions we still ask today.